What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Primetime Preview here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. It is our fifth episode, and like every week for the last 5 weeks, we are your remote control for the weekend. We give you the events that coming up on the sports calendar, and you decide at home what's the events you want to pay the most attention to. We got a special guest tonight, the host of Lead Off Thursdays. Teran Rodriguez is in the house. So we have two different sets of eyes to tell you what to watch on TV. So that's even better. We'll talk NHL draft tonight out in LA, coming up in just an hour. And there's some big news around the top pick with the New York Islanders and what they might do tonight. We'll dive into that. We'll talk NBA draft. Who are the winners and losers from this past week in Brooklyn? And one of those losers just might be the team that hosted the draft. Of course, it's a weekend in baseball. We got our top 5 series of the week. What series should you be watching, and what series should you just stay away from watching? It's a big weekend in soccer. We have the FIFA Club World Cup and the Gold Cup in the knockout stages. Some awesome matches, including PSG and Inter Miami. Messi against his old team. That should be fun. And the USA against Costa Rica. Some 2 big matches in the Eastern Conference in the MLS. We'll talk 3 people at the top of the PGA Tour in Detroit. NASCAR, NHRA, Formula One in full effect. And we'll look ahead to next week as well. We got some cool events to start July, including UEFA Women's Euros. We got Wimbledon. We got hot dog eating contests. That's always fun. So we hope you join us along for the ride and tell us what you want to watch. It's all coming up next here on the Primetime Preview on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We will see you in just a minute. And of course, welcome on into the Primetime Preview on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Kay, your New York insider in the house, as well as the host of the show, joined by the host of Lead Off Thursdays and our Southern California insider / main volleyball guy at Set Point, Teran Rodriguez is here. Teran, before we get into the events this weekend, what'd you like about sports this week?
Well, it kind of feels like we're in that dead period where some sports are wrapping up and we're kind of in that lull where we're starting to get like not a whole lot of sports. It's kind of like that little no man's land of sports where there's not too many sports happening. I mean, but we also have the summer sports and summer events happening. And I just think it's still a good time for sports. Like, for example, we had the NBA finals wrap up. We just had the Stanley Cup championship wrap up last week. And we still have the MLB approaching the halfway point. The MLS is starting to restart up. So the summer is kind of the land of no man's land of like some sports wrapping up, but other sports still happening while the whole world is still happening.
Yeah, I think that's weird. The NBA doesn't want to take off. The finals were Sunday, and we had the draft Wednesday. I was like, this is just weird. It's cool, but weird at the same time. Like, hockey just ended 2 weeks ago, and we have a draft tonight, which is, I guess, the cool part about the calendar in those respective sports and getting in some of the cool summer unique events of the summer, which is always great as well. You can follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at IE Sports Radio. Go to iesportsradio.com. Learn more about our awesome shows during the week. Both Teran and I host the shows during the week. Learn more about our insiders. Learn more about everything going on at the network. And you can follow us on X. Follow me at Rickayer555. Follow Teran at Teran Rodriguez 1. And we want to hear from you throughout the show. This is your TV guide as well. What are you watching this weekend? Be sure to comment either on YouTube, Twitch, and X. And Larry B's in the house. Yep, a lot of sports going on. He's happy and angry about one of those sports. I guess we'll figure out throughout the show which one he's happy and angry about. That's going to be interesting. So before we look ahead to the week that is coming up, and also Brian Francione from our New England Insider is here. Welcome, Brian. Get into one of your teams a little bit later. Let's talk about what happened already in sports. That's the NBA draft. We're a day removed from that. which is pretty exciting. So, Teran, we'll do it real quickly. What is your winner, and what teams are your winners and losers from the NBA draft?
Well, for my winner, I actually thought it was the San Antonio Spurs. I think they got quite a bit better with this draft. I think they have a young core, and I think they're just going to continue to get better. Obviously, they had some injuries here and there, but they were still spry and young and exciting to watch for. So I just think they're kind of rebuilding the pieces that was kind of broken when Popovich kind of is in his last few years with the Spurs. So, but I think the Spurs really scored when it came to this draft. I think they have a bright future ahead of them. I also think the Jazz were kind of winners in my book, getting Ace Bailey. I know Ace Bailey's kind of been under fire, but I think he landed in the Jazz lap, and I hope for the Jazz sake and for Ace's sake that he can possibly flourish into a star for the Jazz, because the Jazz certainly can't get much worse than what happened previously last year. So, and then for my losers, I think the Nets, and I think you are going to attest to this. The Nets had so many picks, but I don't know if they really are going to move the needle for the Nets. I mean, the Nets are probably still going to be in that rebuild stage, especially since they're in a division where it's stacked with your Knicks, the Celtics, even though they're probably going to have some question marks going into this year. And I think the Sixers might be better as well. So overall, I think the Nets kind of swung and missed in terms of the NBA draft.
Agree with you, especially on Utah, not just Ace Bailey, but adding Walter Clayton later in the first round. You're getting two top collegiate guys, and Will Hardy does a really good job developing players. So the Jazz might not be great next year, but they're at least entertaining and on the rise, which is going to be a big help. My winners, I'm going to go with the Hawks. The Hawks got Asa Newell from Georgia, and he's a pretty good player in his own right, but they traded with the Pelicans. And why that's significant is the Hawks get the higher pick in 2026 between the Pelicans and the Bucks. So if the Bucks trade Giannis and the Bucks are trash, or the Pelicans are still trash, because I don't know if Derek Queen is going to be the savior for New Orleans, the Hawks are going to have another lottery pick. And they got Kristaps Porzingis to go with Trae Young this week. So the Hawks just keep getting better and better. I think they did a really good job with this draft and are set up in an Eastern Conference that is very weak, with Halliburton being out and Tatum being out and Lillard being out. The Hawks are set up for the next couple of years, I think, to actually be pretty good, which makes the Pelicans also my losers because they're not even set to be close to winning the West. And that's an issue for them because now you're taking away your future as well. And if the only way you make that kind of trade is if you believe Derek Queen is the guy who's going to save your team, which I don't believe that. And add to your point with Brooklyn, I think it's not just the 5-1s. It's just Sean Marks kind of gave you the direction. They're not trying to win next year. And that's okay. At least you're openly saying that. You're hoping you get a top 3 pick next year and you get Darren Peterson or AJ Devonta or one of these top 3 guys in a deeper class next year. But you kind of wanted to see the Nets take a couple of those ones and go at, maybe they did, and try to go after Jaylen Brown or try to go after a star, or maybe take some of that cap space and trade up to 3 to take Ace Bailey and you take on Paul George's contract, because the Nets, the only team in the NBA with cap space. They can take on those bad salaries other teams can't. So many teams are trying to stay under the second apron that Brooklyn set up. They could trade Nick Claxton and Cam Thomas, but you at least saw direction. But it's tough to see all 5 first rounders getting a chance to play. And I think that's all a team wants is your fans want to know where they're going. Net fans know where they're going. It's just a sad reality, Teran, that they're still in that tank mode. But that's where Sean Marks, you got to trust the process. It just might be taking longer than people expect.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely think that it's kind of going to be a little trust the process. And I know the East, you said it best, it's not going to be as strong as it was last year, but there's still going to be some contenders. And I think the East is going to be an anomaly. Anything can happen when it comes to a lot of these Eastern Conference teams.
Let's put it this way: the Knicks are the favorite in the East, and they don't even have a coach. I mean, that's kind of the weird reality of where the NBA is. So that's free agency, of course, is coming up on Sunday as we head into June 30th and July 1st. So that'll be in the monitor for next week as well. And the NHL will be in the mix too. So let's talk about round one tonight in Los Angeles. It's the NHL draft. Doesn't get a lot of high regard like the NFL draft or the NBA draft. It's definitely a unique process because you get the college guys, you get some from the Canadian leagues, the foreign leagues, and things like that. But I think, Teran, this could be a fun draft tonight. It looks like the top four are pretty much set where they are. You got the Islanders on, of course, having the number one pick. They only had a 3% chance of the lottery. It looks like Matthew Schaefer is going to be the guy. Sharks, I know there's a lot of talk. They're trying to trade out of number two to get a proven guy or a young player, but Michael Misa might be the player there. Chicago seems set on who they're taking. It seems like Los Angeles is set on Utah. Actually, the Utah Mammoth are set on who they're taking, but it looks like 5 is going to be the pivot point. What are you looking forward to tonight with the NHL draft?
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of these teams that were just dreadful last year hopefully like rebuild. I think the Islanders have a lot of upside to them. I think the Penguins are going to be an interesting team just because the Penguins, I always view them as a pretty good team in the NHL, but this year was kind of not the case. Same with the Bruins. So I'm looking forward to that. I am very shocked that the Ducks have the number 10 pick. So I know the Ducks improved from last year, but they didn't move the needle all that much. So the Ducks are going to be interesting, especially since they just traded Trevor Zegras, which I kind of have mixed feelings about. So I'm looking forward to that. And I also, you mentioned Los Angeles. I'm interested to see what the Kings can do just because they still can't get out of the first round. But then again, they always run into Edmonton.
Yeah, that's a weird part with Los Angeles as well. And I think as we pulled up the comment from Brian, Bruins are looking for two-way skating centers. We'll see what the Bruins do there. I think this is an interesting draft because you have also the decentralized. You're going to see like teams' war rooms instead of like where the guy comes up with like 15 people on the stage from the front off. I always found that kind of weird, but that with the NHL draft, we'll see if that changes. But in terms of on-ice stuff, I think tonight a lot of the focus is on the Islanders because not only do they have the number one pick, and it sounds like they're going to get a guy in Matthew Schaefer who's going to be a big talent for them. They did something big today. Now, they traded defenseman Noah Dobson, who's a young defenseman due for a payday, to the Montreal Canadiens. And Dobson, in return, got a 8-year deal for around $77 million. So that he got paid by Montreal, and rightfully so. So in return, the Islanders got Emil Heineman, who's also been traded in the past for Sam Bennett and Tyler Toffoli. So this guy gets traded for stars constantly. And they get 2 1s, 16 and 17. So the question is going to be in the next hour and a half to 2 hours. Can the Islanders package 16 and 17 to move up, and maybe a player or something like that, to 5, where Nashville is, to take a certain player? And that's James Higgins. Now, why is James Higgins the key? James Higgins grew up in Long Island. So you're talking about a team with a new GM and Matthew Darsh, a different direction that they're taking with Patrick Waugh still at the helm. If the Islanders can get the hometown guy and get the top player in the draft, that's going to sell a lot of tickets. And with the Islanders still kind of not ready yet to win in the East, that's something you got to do. I kind of compare it to when the PWHL this week, the New York Sirens had the number 1 pick, and then they traded a veteran. They got the number 3 pick and took the 2 top players in the draft. If the Islanders tonight tearing it up with Schaefer and Higgins, that could be a home run for them.
Yeah, and to build off that, I did hear that the Islanders don't want to trade their first overall pick, but that could be enticing and tempting to get like a haul when it comes to that number 1 overall pick. I mean, this year's draft isn't the most eye-popping, but honestly, it's still filled with talent. And if I'm the Islanders, I maybe try to explore trades, not to like get a haul. Don't like trade it for like a bag of chips. Just trade that number 1 pick for like a big haul of like first rounders, maybe get some future picks and whatnot. So, but I'm but you said it best, all eyes on the Islanders, and I think that the Islanders are going to be a fascinating team going into this draft. So,
yeah, I don't think number one is in play. I think they know who they want at one. They know they want a guy like Schaefer. I don't think that's the question. I think the question is going to be, can they take the 2 Montreal picks and get in front of a team like Philly? Philly's at 6. I don't think Philly is going to let Higgins last past the 6th pick. So the key founders is they got to get to Nashville at 5. Is getting 2 picks, maybe a future pick or a young player to get up into that spot. Is that going to be enough? Especially when it sounds like around the league, people know the Islanders want this guy and are going to pay make sure they pay a premium to get this guy. But I applaud what Darsh did because, look, Noah Dobson was part of the Lou Lamoriello regime. He doesn't really owe him anything. Now, he did let Dobson kind of go to the team he wanted to go to, which was Montreal. And the Canadians at least are building into something forward in the future, especially when you look at the league that now has a rising cap number in the next year. And the big news today, of course, the NHL, the CBA got approved, and they're going to go to 84 games. I don't get why we're adding 2 more games to the NHL schedule. Like, we really have to go from 82 to 84 and shorten the preseason. Like, that to me, that didn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't agree with that by any means, just because it's like you're giving the players less time to like get their minds right and to like heal up, and you're giving them just a couple more games to like get beaten up and to not lick their wounds and whatnot. So I totally disagree. I didn't even know this until now, so that's wild. So yeah, I don't agree with this by any means whatsoever. So the NHL drops the ball on that one. I would say drop the puck, but that's a better term. Sorry, go ahead.
No, hey, I'll take it. I'll take it. Good call there. I agree with you on the Penguins too, by the way. I think Pittsburgh, kind of interesting where they are because they not only have pick 11, they have pick 12. Now, the Rangers made the decision to forfeit the 12th pick this year to keep their pick next year, which I think is smart because that was from the JT Miller trade, because they can either trade it to help them next year, or if they're terrible, the Gavin McKenna draft is next year. Maybe they get in the lottery and they somehow get Gavin McKenna in a year where Connor McDavid will maybe be a free agent. So there's a lot of stuff going on that would make that doable. And we'll see what happens in NHL free agency next week as well, where we'll see which big players get some big paydays and some teams give out crazy salaries and end up like Nashville did this year, which was an absolute mess. And Larry saying the NFL making more games is stupid. I hate money. Yeah, I mean, look, everything is money. To me, that is kind of crazy. But before we take our first time out, let's do some baseball. And as a tradition here on the Primetime Preview, I'm going to give you my top 5 series of the week that you should be tuned into. And, of course, Teran will chime in on why I'm wrong or what series he's watching after I go through the list. It's not a great weekend on the calendar, so we kind of had to put some series we never really would have put here. Number 5, we're going to go Cardinals-Guardians. This is a really weird matchup, but St. Louis is 44-38. Cleveland is 40-39. Cleveland's more than that wild card picture. St. Louis still in that Central. Right now, they're just 4.5 behind the Cubs, so you got to put them in the conversation. It is Sonny Gray and Luis Ortiz tonight. Saturday, it is Miles Michaelis and Slade Ciccone. Sunday, Matthew Liberatore and Logan Allen. Number 4, Padres-Reds in Cincinnati. Padres are 6 back at 44-36. The Dodgers. Reds 42-39, 6 back of the Cubs. But both these teams around that wild card picture, Reds just came off to beat the Yankees 2 out of 3, which I think was a big series for them. Dylan Cease against Nick Martinez tonight, a battle of 2 bad veterans. Randy Vasquez and Andrew Abbott. Abbott is 7-1 with a 1.79. He goes tomorrow. And then Sunday, it is Kolek against Nick Lodolo, another good young pitcher. Number 3, Blue Jays Red Sox at Fenway. Red Sox right now and on that borderline. Should we buy? Should we sell? 7 games behind the Yankees. And Marcelo Mayer's on the bereavement list this weekend, so he will not be playing. Red Sox offense has definitely slipped since the Devers trade. And the Blue Jays are playing some decent baseball. They're 3 games back. This is kind of a trap series for the Blue Jays, considering they host the Yankees for 4 games on the Canada Day series beginning on Monday. Jose Barrios and Brian Bayo tonight. Chris Bassett takes on Lucas Giolito tomorrow. And then on Sunday, it is Eric Lauer against Walker Buehler, who was a mess in Anaheim last week. 2 wild pitches, 2 hit by pitches, a lot of walks. We'll see if he bounces back. Number 2, this series would be number 1 most years, but the Braves have just been a mess. But we're going to throw Atlanta in here because I think this is their last stand. Phillies and Braves. Braves took the first 2 against the Mets, then lost the last 2. Michael Harris looks like a AAA player right now, and he can't seem to find consistency. Phillies, meanwhile, couldn't score anything against the Astros. So maybe this is the series where they find that offense. This is a good rivalry in the NL East. Nick Abel against Bryce Elder tonight. Tomorrow, Jesus Luzardo and Spencer Schwellenbach. That has the potential to be a fun matchup. And then Sunday, as we pull up Sunday's matchup here, Ranger Suarez and Spencer Strider. So not bad games. And number 1, Cubs Astros. This is a fun one. Old NL Central rivalry. And both these teams, this could be a World Series preview. In fact, both these teams are 48-33. They got the exact same record. Astros have been, I think, one of the better teams in baseball in June. Jeremy Pena's having an outstanding year. So much so he switched agents and hired Scott Boras. He wants a big payday. Cubs got Shota Imanaga back against St. Louis, so their rotation started to get healthier. And it's Kyle Tucker's return to Houston. So that's even better. Cade Horton against Walter for Houston tonight. That's an 8:10 first pitch. Tomorrow night, Colin Rea against that famous TBD for Houston. And then Sunday, Jameson Taillon and Framber Valdez. So, Teran, which out of the you want to chime in any of those series, or is there a series I didn't get into that you want to talk about this week?
Yeah, I think the Cubs, you picked the right one with Cubs Astros because both those teams are on their A game. I think both those teams are playing amazing. It still remains to be seen if the Cubs can make their way out of the National League, but the Astros, I've always never been one to doubt the Astros. I think they were kind of the favorites to win the AL West, but my thing is for the Astros, with how weak the American League is, will they be able to make it out of the American League? Can they stay consistent throughout the rest of the way? But I think this is kind of a good litmus test for them. And Blue Jays, Red Sox, I think could probably be number 2 just because it's an American League East battle. I mean, you could say the same thing for Phillies, Braves, but I think for Red Sox, Blue Jays, both those teams could really use some of those wins in that series. So other than that, I definitely agree with you on all those series that you just mentioned.
Yeah, I think what's even interesting with both the Cubs and the Astros, I think both could use some pitching help. I mean, Houston still with a ton of injuries, but they still have almost a 7-game lead over Seattle. That was the other series that I considered was Mariners-Rangers in Arlington, especially those 2 teams like 2 games separated from each other. And you look at the crowded wild card, Cal Raleigh, who's going to be in the home run derby, he's 7 homers shy of tying Barry Bonds' record for most home runs before the All-Star break. So that's something to monitor. But Houston's got a wide gap. Cubs, I think they're like a Sandy Alcantara away from being the National League favorite. I think they could use one more arm in that rotation. But it's going to be a seller's market. It's something we can get into, and we will get into in the Bullpen Bulletin throughout July. The market is just bad. I mean, there's only like 6 teams right now that are going to be guaranteed sellers. And some of these teams like Arizona and Atlanta, maybe even Baltimore, like Baltimore is in last in the East, but when you look at the wild card picture, as of right now, they're 7 back. So maybe they're on that borderline, but these teams going to have belief that they're in. I don't really think that that's the case. So that I think is going to be real interesting to watch from there. So when we give you 5 to watch, we also give you 1 to avoid. It's the flip. I call it the flip the series of the week. Usually when we get to football season, it'll be the flip the channel game of the week where the only time I'll watch is if something else isn't on. This is a tough one. It was a couple. I try to not pick on the Rockies every week and not pick on the Pirates every week and some of these bad teams. I'm with Marlins Diamondbacks. Now, Marlins 34-45. They're not really any good. And looking around the league this week, I don't think Sandy Alcantara is pitching Alcantara is pitching against Brandon Pfaadt Saturday, so I guess I'd watch that. But besides that, there's really no other reason to watch. Arizona's on that borderline right now, buying and selling. They're 41-39, 9 games back in the West, and the wild card, they're 3 games back of San Diego. And they probably, if they decide to sell, as much as Alden might hate to hear this, they've got the best hitter maybe on the market, Eugenio Suarez, the best pitcher on the market in Zach Gallen. But do they want to do it? We're going to see. So to me, that's going to be interesting where Arizona is, but I'm still going to avoid it. The other one's kind of A's Yankees to me. Yankees are not playing well, but it's Aaron Judge you still watch. But the A's aren't any good. I mean, the only thing about that series is Severino returning to the Bronx on Sunday to face the Yankees, and it could be Marcus Stroman pitching, so there could be a ton of runs in that game. But I'm probably avoiding A's Yankees as well.
Yeah, I agree with you when it comes to that. And I actually salute you for not mentioning the Rockies Brewers or Mets Pirates. But yeah, Marlins Diamondbacks is interesting, especially since the Diamondbacks, they don't look like a team that's going to be tanking, but with how much injuries they've gone through, I feel that this trade deadline, they should be sellers. And I don't know if that'll probably be the Diamondbacks winning in terms of the Marlins, but that I totally agree. That's going to be a series that you don't want to really invest too much time into. And I feel for the Yankees and for the Yankees in general, just because it feels weird having that World Series hangover where they were pretty much on top of the American League, and now they're barely scraping. They're barely keeping themselves ahead in terms of the American League East. And the Athletics, thankfully, they get somewhat of a layup in terms of the A's. But if they continue to play as bad as they are, then the A's might actually beat them. So I think I totally agree with you in terms of the series to avoid.
And they've struggled with layups, by the way. Their last few series have been against mediocre teams, Angels, Red Sox, Orioles, Reds. They haven't played well. They normally don't play well in June under Aaron Boone, which is kind of weird. I think they'll find their way out of it. They're too good to not find their way out of it. But the men in scoring position, they've been an absolute mess. I think they were like 4 for 40 against the Reds over this past week. The other series I thought of, and before we go to commercial, because it's in your neck of the woods, well, one of your teams, but not in California this week, Dodgers-Royals, I think is a real interesting one. Kansas City is 38-43, but they're really only a few games out of the playoffs in the American League. And the Dodgers, of course, it's Shohei Ohtani opener weekend where he throws an inning and we all go crazy and we all realize, wait, he's done pitching already? But what's your take on the crazy interleague matchup where the Royals were supposed to be really good and the Dodgers are where they usually are?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to see the Dodgers are kind of getting back in terms of their consistency, especially since they're going to need all the wins that they need, especially with that wild NL West. With the Giants improving, you got the Padres that could also be a little bit tough on them. But yeah, this Royals series, I think is going to be really interesting if you ask me when it comes to facing them. I actually would not be surprised if the Royals made the Dodgers sweat this weekend. So if the Dodgers are thinking that they're going to walk into this series thinking it's going to be a piece of cake, then they got another thing coming. But I think it's actually a very fascinating matchup right there. I totally forgot about that, and I think that should be a series to watch for in case you don't really approve of the other series. But I think that should be an honorable mention or a sneaky good series as well.
And I do take honorable mention. So if you guys feel like missed the series, Go to the comment section. Tell me why I'm wrong. But Seattle, Texas was like number 6 for me. We'll take a quick timeout. We'll come back. We're going to talk some soccer. It's a big weekend internationally. FIFA Club World Cup, some Gold Cup. We'll talk some MLS and a little golf because I think we got a couple of good, interesting golf events coming up this weekend. You're listening to the Primetime Preview here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all those sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
And welcome back to the Primetime Preview here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all the sports. Ricky K along with Teran Rodriguez here. Of course, want to thank our awesome sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. If you're looking for a snack to have while you watch some sports this weekend, or you're at a party and you want to bring a snack to your viewing party, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky is the one to have. And you want to have a cool party next weekend, 4th of July, to watch some sports, and you need to send out those invitations, put a Seal the Deal wax seals on it. It's a great product to have for all of your special events. Go to iesportsradio.com/seal-the-deal-wax-seals to order your special seals today. So let's talk about some soccer, Teran. And this is a big weekend in international soccer because we have some knockout stages to get into. So let's start with the FIFA Club World Cup. It's been a really fun event. I know people have kind of made a big deal out of it because especially in the MLS, it's kind of really hurt scheduling and things like that. But I think it's been pretty good, weather aside, because it's been tough with a lot of the humid conditions in the Northeast. It was like 100 degrees here on Tuesday. It's absolutely dreadful. But this weekend in Atlanta is the marquee event that everybody's looking forward to. It is PSG against Inter Miami in Atlanta, which at least it's an inside stadium, so that will help. Teran, how big is this for Miami, and what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Well, I got to give it up to Miami. They were the only MLS team to make it out of the group stage play. So, I mean, I know what people are going to say. They have Messi, but it's not all just Messi. I think it's the grit and determination of Inter Miami as a whole. I just think that Messi, it kind of just gives them that decoy and it kind of gives them that confidence. But I think this matchup of the weekend is going to be very fun. I think it's going to really test Inter Miami to see if they are a contender in terms of the MLS. But I mean, I know they're not in MLS play right now, and we're talking about the tournament, but I think this is going to be a very fun matchup right here. And I want to see Inter Miami have a deep run in terms of this tournament. I think they're representing the MLS well. And I think if this really is kind of the last dance for Messi in terms of some of his gameplay, I mean, I don't know if he's going to be retiring right away, but if this is the last time we'll be seeing him in terms of the FIFA Club World Cup, then he obviously wants to win that.
I think it's just big for MLS as a whole, because if the MLS gets this significant of a win, Like, just imagine, like, the credit. It's not going to go from like instant credibility overnight, but that's how you start credibility. Is you win a matchup like this, and you figure it out against a PSG team that has been good. I mean, they haven't allowed a goal yet. Oh, they actually allowed one goal in 3 matches. They lost to Botafogo 1-0, but this is a team that has a lot of talent. We saw it against Atletico in the first match when they won 4-0 and got goals from 4 different players. Miami also, when you think about it, has only gotten a goal apiece from the Messis and the Suarez. Alande had a goal against Palmeiras where they were up 2-0, allowed it to be a 2-2 draw. But where would really change it, Miami would have actually been in a better position had they won. But this is one where I think Messi and Suarez kind of rise to the occasion. Maybe you get the crowd on your side, and that kind of helps that. Right now, PSG is a heavy favorite. On ESPN Bet, they're minus 550. Miami's plus 850. It's a crazy lopsided thing. You got to remember also Europe is out of season. The US is in, MLS is in season. Now, that didn't affect PSG against Seattle, but we will see if Messi has one more big game in his repertoire against his former team. Your other 3 matchups this week, Palmeiras and Botafogo, that's tomorrow at noon. This is actually, I think, a really cool game because these are 2 Brazilian teams. The last time they played was a 0-0 matchup. I think this year. So these teams have played in the past, so this should be a pretty fun one. Botafogo, to me, beating PSG gave them a big boost of credibility in this one. Benfica against Chelsea. That's Saturday at 4. Chelsea has been pretty good. Benfica as well. And another one I'm looking forward to, Teran, is Sunday at 4. After the PSG match, it's Flamengo, who has played pretty well. They tied LAFC in their last match, but they didn't really need that match to advance against a Bayern Munich team that, yes, they got 10 goals in that first match against Auckland. But besides that, this is a very winnable game for Flamengo. Bayern won 2-1 over Boca and then lost to Benfica in the group stage finale. And Flamenco's been pretty good throughout their group. I think that's going to be a fun one to watch. What are your thoughts on those 3? Or is there another storyline in the Club World Cup as we have knockouts going on Monday and Tuesday, including Real Madrid against Juventus?
Yeah, I actually think the Flamengo Bayern Munich is going to be a great matchup. I think it might be just as good as PSG Inter Miami. So I really think that's going to be, I think that might be the second fun match, in my opinion, in terms of the FIFA Club World Cup matches to watch for. I think they're all going to be fun, but I think Inter Miami, PSG is number 1 on my list. And then following that is Flamengo and Bayern Munich. So I think both those matches are going to be fun. I think it's going to be a fun Sunday, and this weekend in terms of the FIFA Club World Cup is going to be overall fun.
Do you have who do you think right now, in your opinion, is the favorite in the tournament?
Oh, man. It's a good question. Man. I'm going to say Flamengo.
Okay.
I mean, I know Bayern Munich is definitely good, and they definitely have the offensive output, but I think Flamengo definitely has a shot to win the whole thing. Maybe Chelsea, too.
Both good picks. I'm going to go Manchester City. They have been, through 3 games in this tournament, they have outscored their opponents 13-2. Including a 5-2 win over Juventus on Thursday. Erling Haaland, of course, one of the better scorers in the world. Phil Foden's got a couple goals. Their defense has been solid. They're, again, plus 11 goal differential in the 3 games. They'll take on Al Hilal on Monday night, and then probably will play the winner. I think it's of Inter Milan and Fluminense. So Man City Inter Milan match will be, I think, a lot of fun. Plus, it's going to be great here because MetLife has a lot of the tournaments games coming up. Not this week. I think it's like Philly, Charlotte. But we get a lot of the matches here for the latter stage. It's a good test for when we have the World Cup final in New York 1 year from now. So I think that's what creates the excitement of having this kind of event. And what would be more exciting is if the U.S. was actually pretty good, which leads us into Gold Cup. There's also the knockout stage. We'll get to the U.S. first before we dive into the other matchups. The U.S. will wrap up the quarterfinals Sunday night, 7 o'clock on Fox. against Costa Rica. These two teams played back in January. The U.S. won 3-0, but Costa Rica wasn't starting Keylor Navas in goal, who's one of the better veteran goalkeepers in the entire world. What are your thoughts, Teran, on the U.S., and is Costa Rica something to watch out for?
Well, it's good to see the U.S. is starting to turn things around, but I think Costa Rica is going to be a tough customer when it comes to the U.S. Don't get me wrong. I think the U.S. has done well. I think they've improved after losing to Turkey in, I think it was an exhibition match or some sort of match before the whole Gold Cup happened. But I think Costa Rica might give them like a tough time, or at least beat them at the very least. Beat them in a close one. But I'm interested to see what the U.S. can bring to the table. I mean, I imagine Costa Rica is going to be tough, and I'm happy that the U.S. was able to win its group, but now they're going to be swimming in shark-infested waters.
Yeah, Positano better not lose this game. And I know that the U.S. doesn't have the veterans like the Pulisics in this tournament. I mean, Malik Tillman's played well. Chris Richards has played well. Aguimang's played well, especially in the Haiti match. But I know Navas is a tough customer in net. You can't lose this game. You just can't. Now, Costa Rica's got an X factor. I mean, that's Alonso Martinez, who plays for NYCFC. He usually has a way to come up big in some of these games. We'll see if he's able to. And Costa Rica is actually, you look at their last couple of matches, they've been scoring in the last, leading up to this tournament, before the Mexico game, 8 goals in the prior 3 matches. So they could put the ball in the net. I think it's going to be a big factor. Can the U.S. keep up and make it more of a defensive game against Costa Rica? The other 3 matchups, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, that's Saturday at 10:15 on FS1. Saudi Arabia with just 2 goals in 3 games, but they found their way here. And Mexico, 2 wins and draw in their group. And then Saturday night, the first game, Panama against Honduras. That's 7:15 on Fox. Panama has 8 goals from 2 players, Diaz and Rodriguez. Meanwhile, Honduras made the knockouts despite a -7 goal differential. Rarely ever get that. So props to Honduras for finding a way to get through. And Canada, Guatemala, if the U.S. wins, they'll play the winner of that matchup. That's Sunday at 4. Canada has been, of course, they have, I think, still some of their good players in this tournament. They've only allowed 1 goal so far. So, Teran, the other 3, well, what stands out to you?
Well, I think Mexico, Saudi Arabia could be an interesting one. I've always seen Mexico be a very solid team when it comes to tournaments like this. But Canada, Guatemala, that could also be pretty solid as well. I think that could be a pretty good matchup. But I do love me some Mexico versus Saudi Arabia. But I think all those matchups will be good. I just think that Mexico, Saudi Arabia is definitely going to be an interesting matchup. Like, we'll see if Saudi Arabia can kind of continue its underdog miracle run. I mean, I imagine Mexico should be the favorite to win this one, but you never can count out anybody in any team at any point of soccer.
Yeah, like you said, remember, Saudi Arabia is the team that beat Argentina in the World Cup. So it's possible they could at least get this to stoppage time, and to get to stoppage time, extra time, anything can happen. Mexico, I think, has been interesting. Saudi Arabia's got a really good manager, too. Has really turned around that program. To me right now, I think the favorite is Canada. I think they've looked better. David and Buchanan have played well for them. Jesse Marsh has got a chip on his shoulder for sure as the coach. I think they really want to get an international title going into the World Cup. Panama's kind of my sleeper. Panama right now is just absolutely rolling. They're not afraid to play the U.S. by any means if they get to that point. So I think Panama's in the sleeper here. The U.S. is like 3rd on my list. I guess I'm just low on them because I need to see it to believe it. And I think that's really the issue, I think, with U.S. soccer right now, a year away from the World Cup, is we need to see results. I think that's the big key. Like, you could turn on the women's friendly last night, which the women won 4-0 over Ireland. You could clearly see there's young talent ready to go. Look at the men who have a friendly, I think, coming up in October against Australia. I don't really know what we're going to see. And I think that's really the problem. So a lot still to be determined with the U.S. And I don't think you're going to learn that from a Gold Cup that the country usually does well in. But you could learn how really bad they are if they lose to Costa Rica over the course of this weekend. Other soccer going on. NWSL, of course, is off till August. So the MLS takes really center stage, and the two big matchups this week, both in the Eastern Conference, and both I think some pretty fun ones. It starts on Saturday, 7:30 Eastern, Orlando hosting Cincinnati. You look at Orlando right now, these are two of the top 5 teams in the East. Orlando with a win would tie Cincinnati in points with 36. And Orlando is tied with Miami for the most goals in the East, and they're tied for second in goal differential. So this should be a fun matchup going on over there. Evander, of course, has been good for Cincy. And then Columbia versus Philly. Philly is number 1 in the Eastern Conference, leading that Supporters Shield standings. That match is Sunday at 6 o'clock. Columbus, if they win, would just pull within 3 points of the top spot. And the Crew are usually around that top of the table in MLS. So this should be a fun matchup as well. Columbus is actually favoring that at home. Diego Rossi with 9 goals, but Ty Baribo, 13 goals in 16 matches for Philly this season. He has done a really good job. Teran and MLS, is there a matchup you're looking forward to this week?
Yeah, I kind of want to see LAFC Vancouver. I know me saying LAFC is kind of being biased just because I'm kind of the SoCal insider, but I want to see if LAFC can actually stack up to one of the best teams in the Western Conference. I think LAFC can, especially since it's going to be at BMO Stadium, but they really got to show it against Vancouver. But I totally agree with you. Philadelphia should be a very good matchup, especially in the East. I think Philadelphia is having a fantastic season, but Columbus Crew, I think, is still leaving a lot of meat on the bone. I think this would be a great matchup to have, or a great win to have if you're Columbus, to have as a statement win against a very good team like Philadelphia.
And also very important with the LAFC matches is the last one for Olivier Giroud with LAFC. Our own Jess from Shin Pads Shenanigans had a short that dropped on our YouTube page. The report that Giroud is going back to play in League One in France. So that's a big loss for LAFC. So he'll have one more match on his MLS. What do they call it? Tallies. I think it's what they're called when the games played or something. Oh, caps. It's caps. The games played. The other one I'm looking forward to, I guess you kept it local. I'll keep it local as well. Red Bulls and Minnesota this weekend in New York City. Minnesota right now in the Western Conference is 3rd at 33 points, a plus 10 goal differential. New York is 7th, actually tied for 7th with NYCFC. Lewis Morgan got hurt in a Toronto match that led Sandro Schwartz, the coach, to kind of talk about, well, the schedule's not that good because we've been off for a couple weeks and getting back into things. Also, the last match for Felipe Caraballo, who was a big part of last year's trip to MLS Cup. So something to watch there. And reason I kind of stalled there, breaking news in terms of the NHL, Sam Bennett, not former now, Florida Panther, part of back-to-back Stanley Cups, 8 years, $64 million contract extension. So the player at the top of the board in the NHL free agency next week, off the board, Sam Bennett stays in Florida. I'm sure Adam Karnick will have a lot on that coming up on Monday. Real quick for our final commercial, PGA Tour is in Detroit for the Rocket Classic, brought to you by Rocket Mortgage. It's not a big leaderboard, but it's going to be exciting for sure because it's some unknown guy could win. It's a 3-way tie at 14 under between Philip Knowles, Chris Kirk, and Andrew Putnam. Kirk has shot back-to-back 65s. Knowles shot a 64 today to get himself to the top. Jonathan Stuber's 1 shot back at 13 under. You're looking for familiar names. Colin Morikawa shot 64 today. Hideki Matsuyama shot 66. They're both 11 under, 3 shots back. Gary Woodland is 3 shots back. But the story to me, Teran, is Jake Knapp. Jake Knapp was tied for 125th going into today, even par. He shot a course record 11 under 61. So basically, the course record has been broken 3 times in 2 days. Minwoo Lee shot 63 on Thursday, and then 2 other guys, Philip Roy and Potgieter from South Africa, shot 62. And then Jake Knapp, who shot 59 in Florida earlier this year, goes out and shoots 61. So there's a lot of good scoring. And I think when we look for these non-signature events, we want 25 under par, 27 under par to keep us interested. It's going to be good to see an unknown player maybe take the reins and get some wins on their card to try to get into the Open Championship in a couple weeks. And Jess, by the way, had a different note on the soccer that she'll talk about tomorrow. Woody Johnson, 43% stake in Crystal Palace. So, of course, Woody Johnson's got to get involved in a Premier League team. Maybe when he doesn't ruin the Jets, he can actually help a Premier League team. But wanted to add something else, Teran, on the PGA stuff.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. My bad. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool that Jake Knapp is in the top 7 and whatnot. I think he's catching his first and second wind, and I think he can only go up from here. But I think it's also pretty cool that Philip Knowles, Chris Kirk, and Andrew Putnam are all tied for first, and it's going to be really interesting to see how rounds 3 and 4 go down. I think anyone can win this by any means. Heck, even golfers maybe outside of the top 7, even though there's like quite a bit tied for 7. Heck, even the ones that are tied for 23rd with a -10, I think can definitely make a push for that championship. But all will be revealed in rounds 3 and 4.
Matthew Fitzpatrick, by the way, one of those also at 10 under par, so he could definitely go low. And of course, we're only 6 weeks away from the FedEx Cup playoffs, so all these are big matches. Got to get in that top 75, I think it's top 75 to get into the playoffs. So something to monitor there. Other storyline in golf: Liv is in Dallas this week. Round 1 was today. Harold Varner III and Patrick Reed are tied at 5 under par. John Rahm is 1 shot off the lead. So it's always a fun event with the 3-round short-lived golf. Brooks Koepka is out with an illness. He shot like +7, then swung at a tee marker and all that stuff. So there was some drama with that this afternoon. But that's what we got going on in Liv out in Dallas. We'll take one more time out. We'll come back. We'll talk racing, and we'll look ahead to next week because we got a lot of cool stuff going on over the course of next week as well. You're listening to the Primetime Preview here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all the sports. We'll be right back talking some racing after this.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we're back here to wrap up episode 5 of the Primetime Preview here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all of the sports. Of course, it is your remote control to what to watch on the Sports TV Guide this weekend. We'll wrap it up with a couple other sports going on. Let's talk some racing. A couple of key things. NASCAR is in Atlanta this weekend, the Quaker State 400. And I think it's going to be an interesting race, Teran. You have Hendrick Motorsports usually doing well here. We'll keep an eye on qualifying, which is going on right now. 5 pole sitters have won in the last 20-plus years. Christopher Bell won here back in February. So what are you looking forward to for NASCAR out in Atlanta?
Well, I'm looking forward to quite a bit of these racers. I mean, looking at it, you got Ryan Blaney as one of the favorites, and then Joey Logano, Austin Cindric, Kyle Busch. I actually am looking forward to hopefully seeing Kyle Larson hopefully getting everything together and maybe making a push to win his first race. I think it's kind of been a little bit of a disappointing season for Larson because normally he has at least 1 or 2 races won under his belt, but that hasn't ultimately been the case if you ask me. So I'm really looking forward to see everything in terms of this race, and hopefully we could see like other newcomers like on the come up, like Bubba Wallace, Alex Bowman, Tyler Reddick, Ross Chastain on the come up as well. But these are those are kind of some of the names that popped out at me when it came to this race, and I look forward to what happens in Atlanta.
Yeah, it should be a fun one. Hendrick Motorsports usually does well, so Kyle Larson is one to keep an eye on. To me, the sleeper, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., he's had a top 10 in 3 of the last 4 times in Atlanta, so this could be a guy that could make a run this week. Of course, Denny Hamlin always seems to make a run, and Joey Logano. So you have some of the classic racers in Atlanta that could do some good stuff there on the NASCAR front. In terms of other racing, you have the NHRA Summit Racing Equipment Nationals in Summit, Ohio this weekend. So that should be, I think, an interesting one there. Larry B was talking about that on the Defining Moment on Wednesday. So you check that out as well. And then we have the F1 Austrian Grand Prix this week. Some interesting things with Max Verstappen. He does not have his personal race engineer this week. He is missing the tournament missing the race due to personal reasons. So we'll see if that's a big thing for Verstappen, because he actually didn't affect him today. He was third in the final practice along with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. What are your thoughts, Teran, on the NHRA and Formula One? Definitely some drama with Verstappen the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, for the NHRA, I think you got a lot of like notable names like Doug Kalita, Justin Ashley, who just won his race last week. Antron Brown, from what I'm looking at, is the favorite. Brittany Force, I really hope can make noise. I think that'd be great for the sport of NHRA, especially for all the female drivers. So that's something to look forward to. And according to what I'm seeing, Brittany Force is actually tied for the third most odds of winning the whole thing. So you have that right there. And this is something I didn't know. I didn't know Max Verstappen might be out in terms of this race. But George Russell obviously took a little bit of a step back after he won the previous race. I think it was the Canadian Grand Prix against Max Verstappen after those two kind of got a little bit of an altercation and whatnot. So that I was going to say, watch out for Verstappen and Russell, but we might not see Verstappen. But yeah, Lando Norris is someone to watch for. You also got Oscar Piastri, who is the favorite to win the Austrian Grand Prix. Then you got Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. So keep an eye on for those racers as well.
So Verstappen's still going to race. It's like the equivalent of the crew chief in NASCAR. So
okay. My bad. Keep an eye on Russell and Verstappen. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good. No, it's definitely something. The engineer name, Gianpiero Lambiase. Great name for an engineer. Red Bull engineer Simon Rennie is going to take over in his place. Some things to also keep an eye on with the NHRA. Spencer Hyde in the funny car will try to have a win in Norwalk, where his crew chief has grown up in. Josh Hart looking for his first win in Top Fuel, which should be a lot of fun. And you also have the Pro Stock All-Star Call-Out. So that's something to watch over the course of this week. And then on the Formula One side, Antonelli has done a really good job as well. Kimi Antonelli, of course, rookie, trying to make a run. See how Antonelli does this week. And then real quickly, WNBA, which we didn't get into yet. There's a couple of games I'm looking forward to. Sad thing tonight, it was supposed to be the battle of the last two number one picks, Caitlin Clark and Paige Beckers. But Caitlin Clark has missed the last game, and she's out tonight with a groin injury. So those tickets, I think, extremely went down in price the second that happened. But, that should be a fun matchup there. Two big games on the schedule tonight. Coming up in just a half hour, it is the Lynx against the Dream. Lynx had a loss to the Mystics the other day, just their second loss of the season. We'll see how they bounce back. And this is a big week for the Dream. Could really make a statement. They have the Lynx at home tonight, and then Sunday they host the Liberty at 3 o'clock. And the Dream almost beat the Liberty at Barclays a couple of weeks ago. This is an Atlanta team that I really like the way they're playing right now. Alicia Gray with 19 points a game. Howard's been playing well. Of course, Brittany Griner in the paint always is a matchup nightmare for teams. And this could be a week for them to make a statement. Kind of the way the Phoenix Mercury made a statement. Liberty will play the Mercury tonight at 10 Eastern. Phoenix beat New York a couple weeks ago. New York, of course, is a little bit different. No Jonquel Jones. She's still out for the next couple of weeks. We'll see if Leona Phoebish makes her way back. But Phoenix is favored tonight at home. Alyssa Thomas, I think, has been a difference maker for them. She's found a way to spark them both with offense and defense. I'm interested to see what Sabrina Nescu does. She has been struggling shooting three the last couple of games. Can she bounce back? Liberty did get a big win over the Valkyries on Thursday in Nescu's return to the Bay Area. But having to go to Phoenix, that's going to be a really tough kind of back-to-back swing for this team. I think it's going to be a real entertaining game. Brianna Stewart's been playing well. They need more points from Natasha Cloud, but they seem to get Kennedy Burke playing well off the bench. Other games tonight, the Sky against the Valkyries and the Sun against the Storm. Saturday, it's the Mystics against the Wings. Mystics are 500. And then Sunday, Sky against the Sparks. That's on ESPN. Aces and the Mercury. Congrats to Asia Wilson, 5,000 career points. Sun against the Lynx, Storm against the Valkyries. Teran, what are you looking forward to in the WNBA this week?
Well, the Liberty have a little bit of a gauntlet this weekend. They got Phoenix tonight and then Atlanta on Sunday. That's going to be big right there. And it feels weird seeing the Aces not as good as they have been in years past. Same with the Connecticut Sun. So I think for the Lynx, this could be a time for them to gain some ground in terms of the standings. But they got to go through Atlanta. That's going to be a tough one on its own right there, because that's certainly not going to be a walk in the park, especially since Minnesota is going to be on the road. So it's kind of weird seeing well, not weird, but kind of fascinating seeing the Mystics be 500. And they could very well be over 500 with a win tomorrow, but they're not. They can't afford to go in overconfident and whatnot. Maybe the Wizards can take note from the Mystics, but I digress. So looking forward to what the Liberty can do, as well as the Lynx. And let's see what the Dream can also do as well. Let's see if they can build up their record and hopefully get further and further up the WNBA standings.
And update on the Lynx, Nafisa Collier, who missed that game against the Mystics, she is back tonight with come back from a back injury. So that's going to be big for the Lynx, who only made 3 threes the other day and still only lost 68-64. So not exactly a bad loss to have, especially on the road without your best player, to still kind of hang in there. So all props to them on that, which leads us into heading into next week, stuff that Adam's going to be talking about on Monday. And of course, we will be back. I will be appearing on Lead Off Thursday because, of course, next week is 4th of July. We're not going to have a show on 4th of July. So Teran will be the one leading the ship, and I will be on Thursday. We have a lot of good things to lead off July. We talked about NBA free agency, NHL free agency is going to be big. We have the UEFA Women's Euros beginning on Wednesday. Iceland against Finland, Switzerland against Norway. And we will, of course, be looking ahead to some big matchups, including next Saturday, France and England going up against each other. It's an old tale as old as time, historic rivalry on a 4th of July weekend to watch two countries help the U.S. get independence. Well, France helping and then versing England. So it's going to be kind of an interesting matchup there. And Wimbledon beginning on Monday. Carlos Alcaraz trying to complete the French Open, Queen's Club, and Wimbledon treble. So it hasn't happened since 2008. So, Teran, before we get out of here, what are you looking forward to in terms of talking about next week?
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to a Wimbledon. You know, there's going to be a lot of great players in that tournament. I think it's going to be a fascinating tournament, and I almost forgot about that. So thank you for reminding me. And then UEFA Women's League Championship, I think it's going to be very fun as well. I think this time of the year is basically where all these soccer tournaments happen in terms of like international play and whatnot. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it's an exciting time, especially for soccer fans. So definitely keep your eyes and ears open when it comes to that. So.
And we'll, of course, be talking about the Club World Cup, keeping going with the knockouts, the Gold Cup going with the knockouts. We got 4th of July baseball to look ahead to, including Cardinals, Cubs, Yankees, Mets, Subway Series on 4th of July, Astros, Dodgers. I mean, there is some – whatever this week's baseball slate was bad, next weekend's is 10 times better. But, of course, there's going to be a matchup to avoid that features 2 of the worst teams in the league. But we're going to not talk about that till Thursday. So that's our show, Primetime Preview, Episode 5 in the books. Of course, the NHL Draft going on as we speak, and the Islanders will make their first number 1 pick since John Tavares in 2009. But are they in for more fireworks night in Los Angeles? Of course, with 3 picks in the top 20, do they now make a big splash and trade up with 16 and 17 to get the local kid, James Higgins? NBA, of course, drafts in the books, free agency coming up this week. So something to watch there. Baseball coming up as well, as we now at the halfway point, couple weeks to go till the All-Star game. All-Star voting first round just ended. We have the Home Run Derby participants starting to get unveiled. Cal Raleigh is in. Ellie De La Cruz is not. That's kind of a sad thing. Hoping he was in. FIFA Club World Cup, does Messi beat PSG? That would be big for the U.S. to have the MLS get some credibility. Speaking of the U.S., can they keep going in Gold Cup? Can we beat Costa Rica and move on? We have battle of top 5s in the MLS, the Eastern Conference, 2 of them, 2 big matchups. Who wins out in Detroit at the Rocket Classic? We have the WNBA with some big matchups tonight, and of course, a great weekend of racing. Thank you to all those who tuned in today. Larry B, of course, in the house, Jess in the house, Brian Francione. Of course, you have an awesome lineup of shows. Of course, you hear Teran on Set Point every Monday, along with the Extra Mile with some racing, and then, of course, the opening series Adam Karnick. Challenge on the Play, of course, every Tuesday here on the network. Larry gets you set for the Defined Moment on Wednesday, and then stay tuned for us on Thursday. Teran's going to be having Lead Off Thursday, joined by me, so we'll have a super 4th of July weekend preview for you, which will be fun. And we're going to talk hot dogs. How many hot dogs could Teran and I eat in 5 minutes? Maybe we'll dive into that. We're not going to do that on the show, though, so we'll have some fun along the way. Thank you all for tuning in again. Remember, follow us on Instagram. Not Instagram. Follow us on X at iEsports Radio. Be sure to check out our accounts as well. Hold them up for you on the screen. Rickinator555 and Teran Rodriguez 1. X, TikTok, YouTube. Like and subscribe. Our insiders are putting out some great videos. You'll hear our insiders throughout the week. And it's a lot of fun along the way to get some local perspective. So from all of us at iEsports Radio, for Larry and the crew, for Teran, I'm Ricky K saying have a great rest of your weekend. We'll see you back here next time.
Peace.